by Morris, and particularly the concourse. It's Stuart Ingram from Destination Headquarters. Stuart's been in the travel industry for many years, and a number of us here will have used his expertise in booking accommodation. And I'm always reminded, I don't want to waste any time, but we went to Stuart some years ago to say we want to go to England and do something. He said, no, you don't. He said, you want to go to Paris? And I said, no, we don't. We want to go to England. He said, no, you're going to Paris. So where do you think we finished up? In Paris.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's lovely to be here today. And I must say, I was in Hong Kong on the weekend for work, and I was reflecting on doing this speech today. And as I was landing last evening, when I'd left Hong Kong, it was 32 degrees, sunny, beautiful. And I landed in Melbourne last night, it was 8 degrees and freezing cold. And I thought to myself, why are these people all going to be here today? Because you're all professional, retired business people. You should all be, I'm obviously not doing a very good job because you should all be somewhere far away from here at the moment. But anyway, it's good to have you all here, so I'm very honoured to be with you. I have spoken to many of you before, and I've met a lot of you before. Can everybody hear me in case I don't hear
It's better with the mic.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's better?
Yeah.
Okay. I have obviously met a lot of you before, and I've dealt with many of you as clients, and I have also taken a lot of you away as group members on Beaumaris Probus trips in the past with Alan Nash. So it's very good to see Alan again. I haven't seen Alan for a long time, but we shared some really fun times together over the years. We took a lot of people. I think we took a group of 52 people to China from this club many years ago, and we also took a great group to Indochina. We had a lot of laughs and a lot of fun times, a lot of camaraderie, so it was really special. So it's really good to see Alan again today and to see a lot of familiar faces. For those of you who don't know me, my background is originally, I started in the airline industry, so I started in America once I finished university. So I studied at Mentone Grammar and then went to Monash and did a marketing degree. And then I was inspired to enter the airline industry. I really found the airline industry very fascinating, so I moved to America and did a course with Trans World Airlines, TWA, and got to learn a lot about the way the airline industry operates. The reason I did that, when I wanted to move into the airline industry, they were the only airline in the world who actually did an airline deployment that you could go and study, so I moved over there and learned some really amazing things from obviously an airline that did so many things for the airline industry. They brought in things like in-flight movies, domestic business class, in-flight snacks. So TWA was a great place for me to learn the foundations for this industry. Then I moved to Thai Airways International and moved into more of a management position there and managed their frequent flyer program. And then I took on a very challenging role for a company called World Aviation Systems that manages, at the time we managed 38 airlines into Australia. So we managed all the operations for those airlines into Australia. This was prior to the emergence of the big Middle Eastern carriers you have today, which is Emirates and Etihad and Qatar Airways. I worked for Gulf Air, and Gulf Air, we actually were owned by all those particular countries at the time. So that was a very interesting place to work for. And then I was very ambitious at the time, and I felt that I had enough working for overseas companies, and I wasn't really particularly interested in working for Qantas. So that's when I decided to make the big leap of faith and purchase Beaumaris Travel, which is 27 years ago. So it was a fairly bold thing to do at the time. I was only in my 20s at the time, and I'd never actually worked in that industry, but I felt that I'd worked in different facets of the industry, and I thought Beaumaris was a good area to be. It's a safe area. It's an area where you've got the clients there. We were just talking about before how Beaumaris is a very community area, so it was a good area to move to, and the rest is history from there. In terms of where my industry is going at the moment, I think we need to just go back and look at what happened during the COVID times, because COVID really tested our industry probably more than any industry that's around, because basically for 2 years when our borders were closed, we had no income, we had nothing to sell, and we processed nearly $14 million of refunds. We also had to pay back all the revenue we'd earned over the year and a half prior to COVID. So it was a pretty destructive presence in the whole industry, and a lot of people, unfortunately, a lot of really good people left our industry because basically the financial burdens were just incredibly overwhelming to basically, you actually can't comprehend it when you look back at it now. Fortunately, when I entered COVID, my grandfather was a stockbroker, and he always said to me, don't ever borrow money against your business. So when I entered COVID, we didn't owe any money. We owned our building, and that's what got us through. And we had amazing clients also behind us that were supporting us all the way through. So COVID really did test the strength of our industry, and it's put a lot of pressure on the way that the industry's emerged and how we're running things into the future. So it was a big test. We'd already been through the collapse of Ansett, we'd gone through the Gulf Wars, we'd gone through SARS, we'd gone through Bali bombings, so we thought we'd seen everything, but COVID definitely was the ultimate one to give us a whack. But it has tested our endurance, and I think it's made our industry extremely strong. And I think it's also made people appreciate the importance of actually having a travel agent to support them. The line in our industry is without a travel agent, you're on your own. I think a lot of people found that during COVID, that they booked with something like Booking.com or Webjet or something, where they sat on hold for 27, 28 hours trying to sort out their predicaments. So I think COVID was actually, in some respects, a good thing for our industry to make people appreciate the relevance of us to the market. From a broader perspective, now that we actually have emerged, where is our industry now and where we're going into the future, I think is quite relevant. Within Australia, our national airline Qantas, which many years ago used to have a market share of over 50%, is now got a market share of only 15% out of Australia. And I think their public presence and they've had a public relations nightmare. Most of it was self-inflicted. They really basically didn't look after the Australian population during COVID, and then they've had a lot of ongoing problems since then. I think they had a CEO who didn't really say the right things and blame passengers on the way the airline was run, and I think that's had a lot of impact on the way Qantas has been run. Other airlines have stepped up to the plate. Singapore Airlines, for instance, now has 5 flights a day out of Melbourne. And then they've got an ongoing presence to the rest of the world. Emirates, the big mega carrier, has got a backlog of nearly 300 aircraft in order, so they're flying to Melbourne 3 times a day. And that's what these airlines are all doing, is feeding traffic beyond Melbourne to other destinations. So they're not actually really selling Singapore or Dubai. They're basically, what they do is they pick out a destination and they say, oh, from Melbourne there are 5 people who want to go to Edinburgh, there are 5 people who want to go to Glasgow, there are 5 people, and they build this network based on the connectivity out of Melbourne. And it's really encouraging to see what they're doing, where you've got Qantas, who has a very narrow-minded attitude, doesn't actually see that potential. Qantas, ironically, 2 weeks ago, has just removed the last remaining flight from Melbourne to London out of Melbourne, which is a very sad indictment of what they could be doing. So we used to have Qantas 9 and 10 daily out of Melbourne, but that flight has been discontinued from the network. So we actually don't have a connection from Melbourne to Europe at all anymore, which is a bit of a shame when you've got all these other airlines coming in, cannibalising the market and seeing the potential. I mean, Melbourne is soon to be Australia's biggest city, and unfortunately our national airline doesn't appreciate it. So it's sad to see. The big markets that are emerging out of Melbourne are China and India. So India last year passed an historic mark, being the #1 international arrival market into Australia. So the traditional markets, the UK, New Zealand, USA, are being gazumped by this massive presence from India, and also China. Like there are now 9 flights a day from Melbourne to China. So it's a big potential, and even for India now we have 3 flights a day from Melbourne to India, so which is a massive growing market. We didn't have these things when I worked in the airline industry years ago. Our big growth market was Europe. Like that's when I worked for Thai. 70% of our traffic went to Athens and Rome. It was just a massive connection market. But now, actually, when I was on a Thai aircraft a few weeks ago, and I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but I'll tell you anyway. I was talking to one of the flight attendants and I said to her, and I noticed when I got on board the aircraft, it was basically like getting on an Air India plane out of Bangkok to Melbourne. And I was just talking to one of the flight attendants and I was going to the bathroom and I said to her, oh, do you like flying to Melbourne? And she said, I used to love flying to Melbourne, but she said, now when I get in this plane, it's 90% Indian traffic and they don't respect the way we work. And it's amazing how our industry's changed. Like when you look at Melbourne now, we don't have any European airlines flying here at all. So when I was in the airline industry, we had Alitalia, we had Olympic, we had British Airways, we had KLM, we had all the Lufthansa, we had all these airlines flying to Melbourne, but that's the new trend now that we're basically disconnected from Europe. And as I said before, Qantas has now got rid of their last flight from Melbourne to Europe as well. So the future out of Melbourne is airlines like Singapore, Emirates, Etihad, Qatar, who are connecting through their hubs and taking you to the world. It's really fascinating. Like the airline like Emirates basically can serve about 60 destinations in Europe. They can take you to anywhere. It's really quite fascinating what they can do. Where we're actually travelling to is also changing. Has anyone got any idea about what do you think would be the #1 destination that's in demand out of
Japan.
That's a very good one. It's very close. But yeah, Japan is very, very high. The #1 destination we're actually selling at the moment, it was actually, I think it's 2 destinations connected, but it's Iceland and Greenland. They're the biggest growth market. Another massive one that's really up there is Antarctica. Last year there were 300,000 passengers went down there on cruise ships, so it's massive. But Japan is incredibly strong. There were 60,000 passengers, I was just reading before, 60,000 passengers from Australia went to Japan last month alone. And Norway is another big one. So again, the traditional markets, Italy, Greece, they're still very strong, but these other destinations are the ones that are really emerging at the moment. The way we're getting to our destinations is also changing dramatically. So in terms of the comfort, the way we get there, so you can now get on an Emirates first class aircraft and have a shower halfway to Dubai. It's just, it's quite incomprehensible that you can actually get on an aircraft and have a shower. The ultimate is Etihad. They have a 3-bedroom suite now on their first class. So it's very impressive the way they can do it. And it has very much become a them versus us mentality, because you've got these ultimate suites, but then if you go down the back of the bus into coach class, as the Americans like to call it. So when I worked for TWA, our economy class had 36-inch seat pitch. And if you go on to American Airlines, it's their latest 737 MAX aircraft delivered, it's got 28-inch seat pitch. So in the space of 30-something years since I worked in America, it's gone down by 8 inches, the economy class. So it shows you what's happening. And the new delivery of aircraft that are coming out now, the 787 Dreamliner, which was designed to have 8 seats across. Qantas, they went out when they got this aircraft and marketed it as the best long-haul aircraft experience in the world. Qantas put 9 seats across. So it's interesting, and this is why people should come to a travel agent, because people go online, they book these seats and just think, oh, I've done the best deal. But at the moment, as an example, you can go Melbourne to Tokyo on Qantas, 9 seats across in the aircraft, 31-inch seat pitch. And the same aircraft, Japan Airlines, 8 seats across, 34-inch seat pitch. So you can see the difference, buying the same fare, but getting a completely different travel experience. So I think that these are the things that are happening now, that the market, the airlines are cutting, and then other airlines, like someone like Japan Airlines, is going the other way and thinking, no, we're going to go the other way, we're going to give you a really comfortable experience. So for the same fare, and this is why we always say to people, please come and talk to us and let us share our experience and knowledge with you, because the internet can do amazing things, but it can't give you that human touch. And there's a new thing in the world we have called artificial intelligence, so AI. So AI, I was in a cruise ship 2 weeks ago in Europe, and I heard this American gentleman, he was sitting with 8 people at a table, and he said to his party, he said, oh, travel agents, who needs a travel agent? I use AI for everything. And I was listening to it, I thought, well, you can use AI, because AI will definitely help you plan a little bit of the itinerary, but I tried AI myself just actually about 2 months ago. I gave my assistant an itinerary. I said, can you give this to me? It was one of my clients who lives in Italy was coming to Australia for a month, and she had a specific itinerary. I said, so I said to Lisa, my assistant, can you put this into AI? And I'm really interested to see what AI actually planned. And when I read it, it was actually just an embarrassing train wreck. Yes, it gave the client a month around Australia, but the way it planned it out was just so, as an Australian person, just quite ridiculous in the nature of the way they did it all. So I thought, yes, this artificial, you basically fed in, the client wants to go here, and in 2 minutes it came back with this beautiful itinerary, like, something that I would probably spend a week doing. It came back in 2 minutes literally with this itinerary. But the itinerary, when you actually read it and actually went into the detail, had not particularly much relevance to what we would do as professionals in the industry. So yes, AI is out there, and people say it's going to kill off travel agents, but from what I've seen, no, there's a long way to go. And I think it does take away this human touch. And it's also an element of the authenticity goes. Because recently I came back on a Singapore Airlines flight, and I was very impressed with the service. So I went onto their website, they have a little customer feedback area. So I went onto the customer feedback, typed on my thing, and I said, this flight attendant was amazing, really wonderful experience, made me really want to fly this airline again. And I just pressed enter on the button, and literally within 2 seconds, I had a response back. And it was like this response had been beautiful. Thank you, dear Mr. Ingram. Thank you for the compliment. We're going to pass this on to the relevant person, and the flight attendant will be so appreciative of your feedback. And I thought, but clearly no one's read my email because it had been 2 seconds, and it actually made me feel sad that something could happen that way, because yes, the letter sounded so beautiful, and I wouldn't have to write a letter, like, it was perfectly written and it was so well executed. It actually had picked up everything about it had done, but you could tell it was fake because I'd only just pressed send. So it kind of actually made me feel sad that the industry and artificial intelligence is taking us to that point. So I think that was another thing that made me appreciate that artificial intelligence isn't everything that it's obviously meant to be. The dominance of the airline industry is still predominantly with America, but there are also these new emerging markets now that are going to be particularly Chinese-based. So you only have to look at the top 10. I was just reviewing the 10 busiest airports in the world. Does anyone have any idea about the busiest airport in the world?
Over here?
No.
Atlanta.
Yes. Yes. So Atlanta is number one. Reason being because it's the hub for the world's biggest airlines. So Delta Airlines is based out of there, and it's a massive hub for connecting Atlanta down to South and Central America. So in terms of the order of the airports, it's Atlanta, Dallas, Fort Worth, Denver, Chicago, O'Hare, Los Angeles. This is an interesting one, Charlotte in the Carolinas, which is a big hub for American Airlines, one of the biggest airlines in the world. Orlando, and then you get Guangzhou, Chengdu, and Las Vegas. So they round out the top 10 cities in the world. And then when you look at the top airlines in the world, you've got Delta, which is the biggest airline in the world, then American, then United, then Southwest, which is a massive airline in America, and then China Southern. So they're the 5 biggest airlines in the world. But it's interesting when you get to the top service airlines in the world, it's a completely different picture. Those airlines all just drop out. Qatar's number 1, then Singapore Airlines, All Nippon Airways, Emirates, Japan Airlines, Turkish Airlines, Air France, EVA Airlines from Taiwan, and Korean Air. So they're the top 10. And Qantas, which had always been the top 10, is now down to number 25. It continues to drop all the time. So that's a reflection of where this airline's going, unfortunately. A quirky statistic about the meals we're eating on board planes, and I think this is a reflection of, obviously, again, where the industry is going in terms of the demographic of the people we're travelling. Does anyone have any idea about the most ordered special meal?
Chicken.
More about the demographic of the person travelling.
Curry.
So the number 1 ordered meal now is a Muslim meal. then Indian vegetarian, and then gluten-free. So it just shows you there that those markets, the two biggest markets are the Muslim and the Indian vegetarian meal. That's
I never tried it.
apparently the Muslim meal is meant to be really amazing. If you want to try one sometime, something different, give it a go. And as to show that the world is aging, the number of wheelchairs on aircraft is also massively impacting on the airlines. And this is a profitability issue as well, because it's costing the airlines a lot of money. One of my friends was telling me, he does check-in at Melbourne Airport, that there was a flight last year to Melbourne where they had 56 wheelchair requests. So it does show you, this is delaying the way the airlines are operating as well, and it is having an impact on their bottom line as well. So it's something to consider. In terms of our local area, where we're travelling to is changing all the time, and I've seen massive changes. I remember when I took over Beaumaris Travel in 1998, we basically did domestic travel. International was about 15% of what we did, and domestic was the rest. We were sitting there handwriting Ansett tickets and Qantas tickets. It wasn't Qantas back then, it was TAA, then Australian Airlines. Now, our domestic, and I was just running it to do our BAS the other day, our domestic is less than 1%. So it's basically nothing. But everyone does their domestic online. I think most people just go online, they tap away on Webjet or go to Qantas.com or whatever they do. So international is the big, and I think that's obviously because we're moving to more an ageing population, and the factors of people being retired now, they can afford to travel more, and travel is cheaper than it used to be back then. So it's showing that the destinations we're selling have changed a lot. River cruising and ocean cruising is massive for us. Small group touring is very big, so people wanting to go, they don't want to go in a group of 50 people on a Trafalgar bus around Europe anymore. They want to go on a smaller experience, but there might only be 16 people. Or they might want to just go on a private tour where they've only got 2 people, and we tailor make a private tour for them. Multi-generational travel is massive for us. So it's a 70th birthday celebration, you want to take the whole family away. Or maybe it's a 50th golden wedding anniversary trip and you want to take your whole family away. So we do so many of those departures now. Singles touring is very, very big. So companies will just run a group of people who've been widowed, or maybe they don't want to travel with their partner anymore. They go off and do their own singles travels. I see a few smiling faces out there. Jeff, you're looking like you want to go off on one of those trips. Ladies only, I know you don't have any ladies here, but ladies only touring is very, very big. So the ladies feel comfortable to go and travel without men around them. So it's a really big market. And expedition touring is extremely, extremely strong. That's a really massive market for us. But cruising in general is by far the biggest growth area. In Australia, obviously, we do have an ageing population, and people said during the COVID, when we had all those situations with the Ruby Princess, that, well, I'll never go cruising again, but cruising has bounced back incredibly strong. Recent developments in cruising have seen things like adults-only cruising, casino-free cruising, singles-only cruising. Cruise lines are now building cruise cabins that are dedicated to singles. So previously, singles used to have to pay double the amount to go on a cruise ship, but there are now cruise lines now who are actually building cabins that are just dedicated to singles. There are also cruise lines now who just have completely separate single pricing, so you don't have to pay anything extra to travel by yourself. So it's good. So previously, when you're having to pay double, now you pay exactly the same. So that's something that's really enticing people into cruising. And luxury expedition cruising is just off the radar. It's just so popular in terms of going to destinations like the Kimberley, Arctic Canada, Arctic Europe, Antarctic region. It's that in the last 5 years has gone crazy. And it's brought all these traditional luxury cruise lines into the space. Companies like Silversea, Seabourn, Penant, who are very much luxury cruise lines, have all seen this urgency to actually get into this expedition space. So you now see Silversea have 2 expedition vessels, Seabourn have their own expedition vessel, and Penant have just built a very luxurious expedition vessel that goes down into the Antarctic region. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to target a luxury traveller who wants to go and have a soft adventure as well. So this type of client will go off and do a little Zodiac trip and then come back and have caviar and Pomeranian champagne in their suite with their butler serving it to them in the afternoon. So it's not like going on the Russian icebreaker to Antarctica, which people used to go on 30 years ago. This is very much a luxury experience, and they've seen that there's so much demand. And we're actually, with our advertising now, we do very targeted digital marketing now, so we don't need to advertise in Beaumaris at all. We've got very loyal support in the Beaumaris area, so we don't actually target Beaumaris at all, because we feel like we look after the Beaumaris people, and Beaumaris people look after us extremely well. So what we actually do now with our marketing is we target. So we might have a campaign, say, with Silver Sea Cruise Lines, which is a 6-star cruise line, and it might be an Antarctic cruise. So we actually will, through the ability of digital marketing, we can actually target the top 20 suburbs in Australia that search for luxury Antarctic cruising, and we'll actually go out and target those regions. And it's very interesting that you can put a campaign out there. We can put out 2 different campaigns. Like we might put out a campaign to, let's say it's sailing the Queensland coast, but then when we put out exactly the same money into a campaign that goes to the Antarctic region, these suburbs, that it just goes like crazy. So we just did one last week where we watched the chart where one campaign just went along like this, and we did an Antarctic luxury campaign. We did it to the northern beach suburbs of Sydney, and it just was like this. It was quite amazing to see. So it shows you that the demand that is for these products is quite considerable, and you can see why these cruise lines have invested the money into doing this. So it's an interesting development for us, and it's for someone like me who's come probably more from an airline background. It's exciting to go and sell a new different product out there. As we look towards the future, obviously there are still challenges in our industry. We've only seen it very recently in our local market, and we've just seen the collapse of Bonza Airlines, who I think they were quite naive when they entered our market, because they decided to only sell their product on an app. And I don't know whether a lot of people in this room probably wouldn't feel confident buying a product on an app, but I think that was their market. And they also didn't sell to the traditional travel agent market. So the problem for that was that when the consumer went on to search for a flight from Melbourne to the Gold Coast, for instance, on Webjet, Bonza didn't come up. So basically they were relying on a very little sector of the market, and I think that's why this airline just didn't survive. During COVID, we nearly had to collapse the Virgin Australia as well. So it shows you that our market is still in a very precarious position. We only have a small population in Australia, obviously. So, but having said that, we bat above our weight in other areas. Like, we're the 2nd biggest cruise market in the world now. So we're basically, yes, Europe as a whole is bigger than us, but as a country, we're actually bigger than any country in Europe now. So we're second only to the United States now for cruising. So it's showing that trend is going to go and continue to grow, which is really, really good it's good for you when you're traveling, because you're going to have so many different choices out there. And the good thing is that because you've got so many choices out now, the luxury cruise lines are building so many new ships to cater for this demand, so the price for a luxury cruise is continuing to go down all the time. Companies like Silver Sea, we always equate cruising on a per person basis per day, so Silver Sea traditionally used to be about $1,300 per person a day, but you can now, when Silver Sea have a good special, get a Silver Sea cruise for about $600 per person a day. So it's a product less than half the price of what it used to be, and that includes all your meals, all your drinks, your excursions. So when you think about going to a European city and spending sometimes people do spend $1,000 a day on a hotel for a decent hotel in the centre of Rome, for instance, you're actually getting everything included, and you're being taken from destination to destination to destination. So I think that's why these cruises are getting more and more popular, because the price of them is becoming more and more affordable. It used to be something, for the rich and famous, but now it isn't. So it's really, really encouraging for you if you're considering to get out there and see the world. And I think another thing that people need to have started to appreciate too is that travel agents, we can actually save people money because of the affiliations we have with different hoteliers or cruise lines. For instance, we're part of the biggest luxury travel consortium in the world called Virtuoso. And with our partner hotels, if you go, let's say you go and stay at the Langham Hotel in Melbourne, so I just made a booking this morning. So the Langham Hotel this Saturday in Melbourne is $380 for a standard review room. But because we're part of Virtuoso, our clients, when they book their $380 room, which if you go onto, what's that one you see on TV? Trivago. So Trivago always advertises on TV that they have, you know, they talk about this gentleman walks up and this lady walks up and that one person booked this rate, one person booked this rate. So the Trivago client will buy the Langham for $380 a night. But with our Virtuoso rate, with our rate you get 2 breakfasts, which is worth $130, and you get $100 room credit, which is worth another $135. So you're getting $265 bonus on, plus you get a free upgrade, and you can early check in and late check out. So once you're adding all this in, the consumer who's thought they've got the best price online has actually not got the best price online. Now I had a classic example last year. I had one of our clients stayed in Santorini for 2 weeks. They decided they were going to book this beautiful villa, so they booked a beautiful villa. They paid a lot. They paid €2,500 a night for their villa. There were 4 of them going, but we booked it with Virtuoso. And when they got there, they were upgraded to a €25,000 villa for the 14 nights. So they got a lot of good value from booking this Virtuoso rate. So it did show, so if they just booked with the Hotel Direct, they would have got their €2,500 suite and they would have been very happy. But when they walked in as a Virtuoso client, which is, the hotel is considered to be the luxury upper client that they're trying to target, they like a Virtuoso client because we actually connect with the hotel a couple of months before and we start to feed them with information to try and get them informed about what the client's going to be like and what their dislikes, because it makes for a more pleasant stay. So these clients end up getting, you know, $20,000 or $30,000 of extra value from per night. So over 14 nights, you can see the value of what they got just by booking through a travel agent. So it was, and obviously that client came back extremely happy, so it was good. So it just showed you the value of booking with a travel agent rather than just booking online. And I think that's what people need to appreciate when they're looking at the different factors, and that's what we always tell people, at least give us a try and come and try the way we do it. And I think then you'll realise the virtues of at least going to a travel agent. The travel industry, it continues to be a really exciting industry, and I think it's an industry that we're continuing to evolve to the changes in the market all the time. So all I would like to leave you today is to please continue to try and support local travel agents. So when you're booking your next holiday, yes, go online and have a look at it, but at least give your local travel agent a call, whether it's us or whoever, wherever you live, Black Rock or Cheltenham, wherever you go to, Southland. At least go into a travel agent and give them a try, and then I think you'll be impressed with what you get. You're getting knowledge. We invest so much money in knowledge. We have staff going all over the world. Like I was just thinking about in the last year where I've sent my staff to. We've had clients, staff on every continent, and what that means is at least when you're going to your destination, hopefully you're going to get a lot more first-hand knowledge than just by booking it online or using artificial intelligence to do what you do. Because we've been doing it a long time. In my office alone, we've got nearly 300 years of travel experience between us, so it does help. And I know those of you in the room who have used this before, you know that we're there for you all the time. We're always going to be there supporting you, and we do appreciate that support, and we hope we can help you out in the future. That's my speech for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. Stuart has a very busy time up ahead. We have time, he can't stay for lunch unfortunately.
Yeah, sorry, we're doing a massive group at the moment, so it's just finalising this week.
And as I said to Stuart, if you want to go to a travel agent, you want to go to England, they'll send you to Paris. We have time for some questions before our thanker comes along. So we've got some questions.
If you go to Vietnam, would you fly Vietnam Airlines or would you go to somebody else?
If you go to Vietnam, I would fly Vietnam Airlines because they fly. The good thing about them is they fly to Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh. So
yeah.
I can also mention Stuart put us onto Vietnam Airlines to go to Europe business class when we were meant to be going to Qatar. We finished up with Vietnam Airlines. They were fantastic.
Yeah, I think that the advantage of Vietnam Airlines is they have a couple of flights a week to Hanoi and they have daily to Ho Chi Minh. So I think it's Barry.
Stuart, you didn't mention the harbour state of the cruise terminal in Melbourne.
Station pier?
That's very important. We're not getting cruises from Melbourne anymore.
No, and I think the big problem we've got with Station Pier 2 is the Port Authority of Melbourne have racked up the charges to come here as well. So I know 2 cruise lines have already given Melbourne away. So it's a big problem. Yeah,
It's bad. You say we're the biggest city now.
Yes.
And there's hardly any cruises from Melbourne.
No. Our location doesn't help us as well because we're so much further south. So that's a big factor they look at as well because they feel like if you go from Brisbane and Sydney, you go straight into the action a lot more. Because they don't want to be at sea as long, the cruise lines, they want to be able to sell more, but yeah, it's not a good situation.
Right?
Yes. Having just transferred $26,000 into your organisation, who would you recommend as travel insurance?
Yes, good question.
100% NIB, because we right through COVID particularly, and emerging from COVID, we've seen NIB to be so supportive. And sometimes I put claims in with NIB, and I really doubt they're going to pay this one out, but they do it. I've just found them so supportive. We had a classic one last year. We had clients sitting at Buenos Aires airport, waiting to board their flight back to Australia. And they contacted us and said, our plane is stuck in Auckland Airport. Auckland Airport had a massive flood, no flights leaving Auckland. It was a LATAM Airlines flight from Santiago, Auckland to Santiago, and then they were then meant to keep picking up the end return part of that. And I thought, this is a doozy. It was the end of school holidays, no flights available. It was just worst case scenario. So my philosophy in life is if you can buy your way out of a problem, that's fine. But if you can't buy your way out of a problem, then you're definitely up a creek that you don't want to be up. And the only way we could get these people out, they were in Buenos Aires, coming back to Melbourne, meant to be going via Santiago and Auckland back to Melbourne, was to buy them, they had an economy class ticket. We had to buy them 2 first class Emirates tickets. They were the only seats available for a 3-week period. So we spoke to LATAM Airlines in Australia and they said there are no seats back to Australia for the next 3 weeks. So my clients are basically stranded in Buenos Aires for 3 weeks. So we found the 2 first class seats on Emirates via Dubai. And we contacted NIB, who was the insurer, and NIB said it seems like a plausible claim. But they couldn't give us a definitive answer. But I said to my clients, we can't give you a definitive answer, but if not, you're going to be spending the next 3 weeks of your life in Buenos Aires airport. So we took the risk, we lodged it all in, and NIB paid all the claim out. So since that day, they're the people for me, NIB.
There you go. Guy, what about you?
Stuart, you mentioned destination to Northern Europe. What are the attractions that people are looking at now?
In Northern Europe, definitely the Northern Lights. It's very, very strong. Iceland's incredibly strong. People are doing trips around the whole of Iceland. And then the Arctic region, Arctic Norway, and then up into Greenland. Very, very strong. But Northern Lights particularly.
At the back, Graham, I can see you.
Stuart, what a top talk. But a question, do the international airlines ever offer short-lived, substantial specials? You know, if you go next month, it'll be much, much cheaper. Does that ever crop up?
Sometimes they do if they've got a lot of excess capacity. I know Qatar Airways, it is an economy class, but Qatar Airways have just put out an economy class one for specials for travel in the next 3 months. They're desperate to sell seats. It probably goes the other way though, Graham, that if you book long way in advance, they have their early bird specials. So some of the European airlines are putting out early bird specials. So last year, Singapore Airlines, I don't know why they did it because they didn't need to, but Singapore Airlines came out with a ridiculously priced early bird business class special. So it was about half the price of people who booked later. So you'd be sitting on the same aircraft with people who maybe paid $12,500 and you'd only paid $6,000. So to answer your question, some airlines do, but most airlines are running at such high capacity at the moment but I think that will start to drop back as capacity. The big mover into our market is the Chinese market, because once they dictate a lot of the pricing, even though people are not going to fly that airline and have no desire to go to China, but because they bring in all these flights into Melbourne, that capacity there makes all the other airlines lower their prices. So that's what's happening at the moment. So I think you'll see that the pricing across the board will continue to drop in the next 6 months.
Thank you, Stuart.
I'm just going to take President's report as such. Stuart, the cheapest business class to Europe at the moment, and what is the best time to do any bookings for late next year?
The airlines only have their capacity loaded 330 days prior, most of them. So if it's late next year, we can't look at that yet.
Right.
The lead in business class fare to Europe at the moment is probably about 5-7 on Sri Lankan Airlines via Colombo. And they're a very good airline. They're part of One World. They fly good air, and it's actually quite a nice routing because it's 10 hours to Colombo and then another 10 hours through to London. So so they're sitting at about 5-7. Then Oman Air, which is the national airline of Oman, are an exceptional airline to fly. They have an agreement with Malaysia Airlines and Thai. They sit at about 6-1. But I would watch, if the Singapore Airlines come out again with their early bird fares, they'll be a bit over 6.
Thank you, Stuart.
How popular is the Qantas flights ex-Perth to Paris?
Very popular. There's only a couple of times a week.
Right.
So that's the problem with Qantas. They don't have daily flights to a lot of these destinations. So Rome's not daily, Paris is not daily. So it's not hard to sell that. When you're selling to a population of 20-something million people, you're only selling 260 seats a couple of times a week. So
one more up, and I can see at the back. One more at the back.
It's me.
That's you, yes.
Going to Oslo next year, and Thai Air fly to Oslo from Melbourne. How do you rate Thai? I know you used to.
Oh, I'm ex-Thai, so in economy or business?
Business.
It's a good, solid product. Well, I have to be. It's an older business class, so if you want all the bells and whistles, it doesn't offer you the bells and whistles. So if you want to have in-flight Wi-Fi, and you want to have a private door in your suite, and what everyone else has now. I personally still like flying Thai. I think the service is what I like about Thai, the service is very efficient. So you take off from Melbourne within an hour and a half of taking off from Melbourne. You've had your meal, you can relax, and then 2 hours into Bangkok, out of Bangkok, they serve you your next meal. So you're not being annoyed all the time by, sometimes you go on other airlines and the service takes 3.5 hours and 4 hours, and it just, Thai to me still does it. The service is very polished. The reliability of the aircraft is still very good. So I would say in the last 30 years of selling Thai to Melbourne, I can count on one hand the number of delays I've had to deal with. So they're a very reliable airline. They fly modern Airbus A350 to Melbourne, and they fly 777-300ER into Oslo. So they just restarted Oslo last week. Actually, it's a new route they've just put back into the network. So I think, if the price is right, I think it's a one-stop flight to Oslo too, so it's a good product still.
Well, there you go. That sounds fantastic. We've got one short one, and that'll do us. Anyone else? No? Over to you, Jeff. Thank you.
No, I haven't finished. I've got some prizes.
Oh, prizes. Oh, right.
I don't know, am I allowed to do prizes?
Please do, yes.
Okay, let's see.
There's cash involved in it.
No, you have to put your hands up quickly here. Okay, what's our first question? What's the most ordered special meal in the world?
Muslims.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, right.
I don't know what the prizes are in any order. Okay. Where did I start my career?
TWA.
Yes. Thanks, Gary. What else? I didn't say this once. This is just testing your general knowledge. What's the 2-letter code for Thai Airways?
TG.
Ah, there you go.
You've been there and done it.
Thank you.
This is definitely testing knowledge, because I didn't actually really talk about it. What cruise line could you sail on and have caviar served in your cabin by your private butler?
What is it?
Silver Sea.
Cunard.
Silver Sea.
Cunard.
Silver Sea. Who said Silver Sea?
Heard you.
Oh, you already got one.
No,
Oh, good.
no.
One per person.
Yeah, one per person.
Prices, eh?
Yeah, so Silver Sea, basically every cabin is a suite and every cabin has its own butler and you can have unlimited caviar in your suite every day if you want.
You like Kevin?
What country in the world did 60,000 travellers from Australia travel to last month? Japan. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. It's really enjoyable to see you all again, and particularly special to see Alan Nash again after so long, because Alan and I shared some amazing times together on those trips. So a lot of fun, and I got to see Barry as well today, so it's good. So yeah, we had a lot of fun back there. So you should do it again sometime. You should do another progress trip. They're a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Anyway, thank you very much.
Yeah, wasn't that a fantastic talk? And if you didn't win a prize, by the way, Paul has recorded the video, so it'll be on the website. Well worth watching it. It was full of information. I mean, I couldn't, when you started, you went through your career, I thought, you're not old enough to have done all those things.
I feel it.
No, look, it's absolutely fact. The statistics, there's so much in that talk, the AI and Qantas. How did they manage to pay all that money? That's another story. So congratulations, it was a most superb talk. And as you all know, Destination HQ is a highly respected travel agent, and I'm sure many of us have used them. I have several times. I could ask for a show of hands, I think probably most would. So highly respected. Well done. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.